This is part 2 of replacing a head gasket on a 2004 Chevrolet Express. It's time to remove the bolts that hold on the exhaust. This first one you can see just broke off. At this point, I decided to take the spark plug wires off. They ended up being in the way and they're very difficult to get off. I used a pry bar to gently pry against the side towards outwards, and that helped get them off. Be careful not to damage them. And now I'll continue removing exhaust bolts. And this one is just going to break off. And there's just enough flexibility in the pipe to move out of the way. Now we'll remove the 4 bolts holding on the valve cover. And we need to remove this bolt on the oil-filled tube. Now we can get the valve cover out. Next, we'll remove the rockers. Keep track of how each of these pieces go, as you'll want to put them in the same direction and same spot as before. And we can take this rail out as well. I actually ended up putting the rockers back into the rail so that they would stay in their order. There's a little pipe that goes between the heads on the front, and we'll disconnect that. Now we can remove the head bolts. I did this in the wrong order. You're supposed to start in the middle with the middle 2 and work your way out. And then afterwards, there are little bolts along the top that you can remove. Now, unfortunately, before I got the head off, my phone died. But continue to work on those bolts. There's 5 in the middle, 5 on the bottom, and then 5 little ones up at the top. And then the head should be able to come right off. Now I am going to show the process for only one of the heads, except for this side. I'll show you there's 3 bolts here that need to be removed in order to get the head off. And then the rest of the process is the same. To clean down the head, I used a razor blade to scrape off some of the material, and be careful not to scratch the aluminum heads. Don't want any gouges in them. I used some paper towels with brake cleaner for some of the cleaning, and I also used some pads. These are similar to like green pads that you would use in a sink, and that worked pretty well to get it clean. It's also a very good idea to replace your valve seals while you have the heads off. Here I'm marking a line in the valves so that I can line them up with the orientation they were before I take them out. You'll need a valve spring compressor to compress the spring. You take the 2 little keepers out, and then you can replace the valve seal. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can find a different video on how to do this, but you will need that valve spring tool for this job. One more thing we need to do while we have the head out is to remove any broken exhaust bolts, which would be very common. Here I'm just using a welder, and I'm welding a nut to the exhaust bolt that's broken off, and then I can back it out. Sometimes it took me a bunch of tries to get bolts out, but eventually I was able to get them all out. Now, before putting the heads in, we want to take any of the dowels out from the head and put them into the block. It'll make it much easier to work with when we're putting it back together. Now we can install our new head gasket, put on the head, and start inserting the new bolts. We'll start the tightening process just by snugging down each of the bolts. And at this point, we're only going to worry about the big bolts. After they're all snug, we're going to torque them to 22 foot-pounds. And this is the torque sequence that we want to use over the whole tightening process of this head. For the second pass, we're going to take a breaker bar and we're going to go 90 degrees. And after we do a first set of 90 degrees, following the torque sequence on the whole head, we're going to do 70 degrees. Now we'll tighten down the small bolts and we are going to torque these to 22 foot-pounds. Now we'll put the push rods back in. We want to put them the same place we got them from. And we'll reinstall the rockers. And we will torque them to 22 foot-pounds. Now we can install the valve cover with the new gasket. And we'll torque it to 106 inch-pounds.